Hello and welcome back to the Bored Whovian YouTube channel, and today, in obvious build up to 13's Regeneration episode, Power of the Doctor, airing this Sunday, cannot wait for the 90-minute or 87-minute spectacular, which we're in store for. Already some positive talks, people are saying it's quite good. I'm looking forward to it, even despite my opinions on the children. But anyway, with that coming up, I thought it was a good idea to talk about regeneration scenes and the ones which we've seen so far in the actual main show. So I'm going to rank them and see what you think. We're going to be starting from worst to best. Obviously, you want to build up. You want to build up to the highlight. And obviously, I've put 13 regenerations into here because I'm including the War Doctor. So 1 to 2, 8 to 9, 8 to War, War to 9, all the way up to 13. Because we haven't seen the 13th Doctor's regeneration yet. Who's she going to regenerate into? We'll see. But anyway, let's start off with 13th place, the worst regeneration scene I think in the show, and that is, I think, pretty obvious. I think everyone should agree on this, is the 6th Doctor to the 7th Doctor in Time of the Rani in 1987. It is just awful, and we understand why. We all know why. Colin Baker himself regrets not being there, but I sympathise with Colin Baker. I completely understand why he wasn't there, and I would never criticise him for not being there because of the way the BBC let him go. He just went, you know what, I'm not going to film the regeneration scene, and then it ended up being Sylvester McCoy in a Colin Baker wig turning into himself, and it's left unclear how he died. I'm pretty sure Big Finish have cleared it up. It was something called The Last Adventure. I haven't listened to it. I would like to, but I haven't. But the regeneration itself, yeah, it's poor, and I think it's like one of the few times in Classic Who where they've done like a cold open, because they regenerate and then the title sequence happens. But yeah, we all understand why it's bad. It just is bad. Going on to 12th place. I'm actually going to include the War Doctor very early on, and I'm going to go for the War Doctor's regeneration into the 9th Doctor. There's some reasons for this which cannot be controlled by the show, by the fact that Chris Ferguson wasn't there, so it's an incomplete regeneration. You kind of just see his eyes show up and that's it. It kind of hits you out of the blue. He just walks into his TARDIS and then just starts regenerating it. There's no build up, it kind of hits you. There's no emotional element to it because it's just kind of there out of nowhere, and you just kind of had this character for an episode, and then he regenerates, and you don't see the full regeneration, and he's off. And then suddenly we're cutting to Tennant and Smith talking, and you're just like, okay, he's regenerating. It's there kind of just to explain canon. It's there. I like Moffat for doing it because it's something which fans would want to know. Like, oh yes, this is him regenerating into 9, so it completes the line. He's tidied it all up. Nice. We know, like, the order's clean now. Nice. That's the purpose of this scene, realistically. And yeah, it's 12th on my list. 11th on my list, I have got the 1st Doctor to the 2nd Doctor. That is the regeneration, the first ever regeneration in the 10th planet in 1966. Now, the scene as a whole, obviously this story itself is a bit of a mess to watch now because half it's animated. And yeah, obviously William Hartnell was ill, very ill at this point, which is why he had to regenerate, which is why the idea of regeneration was brought in the first place. And the scene itself, you know, you just see him go, it's far from being all over, walking into the camera, and then, you know, he's supposed to have walked back into the TARDIS and like fallen over, and Ben and Polly see him, and the TARDIS is flying away, and some controls are moving, and it's not really explained, and then he just kind of lights up and changes. And the thing is, I'm going to be completely honest, in the black and white, when they zoom in on his face, you can't even see his hair, and the change isn't that clear in black and white, I don't think. Really, I don't think it is. And I think if I saw that in 1963 without knowing what regeneration was, I would have just thought, I wouldn't really notice. until someone maybe pointed it out. But I wouldn't have been able to rewatch it because it was 1966. I wouldn't have been able to rewatch it. So yeah, but I do like the story. I do like the regeneration. I don't hate really much of these, but this one just, yeah, doesn't really touch me. But it obviously plays an important part in the show's history because it's the first one. But it doesn't really rank that high for me now. And I feel a bit bad about that, but that's just how it is. Next on my list in 10th place, I have the 7th Doctor to the 8th Doctor's Regeneration. That is in the TV movie. Yeah, interesting one. It's a bit cheesy, it's a little bit American-y with the fact that, you know, there's like lightning and stuff and he's like moving his face all and morphing into it. It's a cool effect. I like the effect. The thing that kind of ruins it for me is the guy that in the next room watching Frankenstein as the 8th Doctor rises out of the morgue, and it's just like, you know, funny. And then the guy passes out. You know, it's just a bit. It is how 90s America would have made a Doctor Who Regeneration scene. And it's funny that we have that, but, you know, it's just not. I'm not going to bash the TV movie. I don't hate the TV movie. I kind of watch it, but, like, I don't think it's an amazing piece of Doctor Who. But I like it because I think I like looking back on classic Who, because I don't hate the bad ones. This isn't one of the bad ones, it's just one of the cheesy ones, but I kind of enjoy it for that. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about the TV movie anymore, because we're going to move on to 9th place. And 9th place, I have got the 3rd Doctor's Regeneration into the 4th Doctor in Planet of the Spiders in 1974. Now, with this one, what can I say? Not so many great things. I think the actual change itself is good. It's the first kind of clear morph in colour from one character into the other, which is good. The regeneration itself, this is the first time I'm going to mention it, but the reason he regenerates is just kind of unclear, because he just walks into the TARDIS, normally, and then he stumbles out of it, and it's just like, oh, he's dead, he's dying now. And I wish there was more of an explanation. I wish, like, the spiders, like, hit him, and then he came back and was dying. But it's not really explained. Like, before he gets into the TARDIS, it's explained as he's dying. It's just like, well, why? If there was much more foreshadowing towards it, then I'd like it. And yeah, I still like it, obviously. The moment of Sarah Jane, you know, Doctor don't die. Is that a tear, Sarah Jane? That's a lovely moment. When the monk guy shows up, who's supposed to be also a Time Lord, shows up, that kind of ruins the scene for me. But everything else good. All the main cast on point. Brigadier Sarah Jane, and obviously the Doctor, John Pertwee. John Pertwee is a very underrated Doctor. I think he's fantastic. And probably one of the most unique Doctors ever. No one's going to try and do it John Pertwee over again. Like, he was just very much on his own when you look back in Doctor Who history. But yeah, fantastic. Now we're going to move on, and we're going to go and revisit 2 Doctors, which we've already mentioned. We're going to go to the 8th Doctor's Regeneration into the War Doctor. And yeah, this obviously happened very much after, long time after the 8th Doctor's run, shall we say. It was, again, very much like the War Doctor's Regeneration. Moffat filling a gap. We had never seen the 8th Doctor's Regeneration. Now we had after this. And it was in a, you know, mini episode building up to the 50th. Now, I love this because it gave us time to watch Paul McGann. And Paul McGann is fantastic in the role. And if you think Paul McGann shouldn't be brought back at any time, you're an idiot. Paul McGann is perfect. We need Paul McGann back. Bring Paul McGann back at all costs. I think he's fantastic. He's the best thing about the TV movie. He's amazing in Night of the Doctor. He's fantastic in Big Finish. Please, God, just bring him back. I don't care. The man's not going to look like young forever. He's got that Paul Rudd gene or whatever. He's the same age as Peter Capaldi, and he still roughly looks the same as when he actually did Doctor Who in the 90s. Please, 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 use this man. Please, it's so dumb. Use him. But his Regeneration, fantastic. Very McGann, very just powerful performance from him. You know, physician, heal thyself. You know, him telling everyone to get out. He doesn't want them to see his Regeneration. And it, you know, the way it links into the Time War, and the way he's just within such a small amount of time, Paul McGann just makes you look at him and goes, wow, we need more of him. Because he's that good. He's that good. But yeah, it's still not high up because I prefer everyone's third, but this is just a brilliant Regeneration. And yeah, Paul McGann, please, just bring Paul McGann back, please. Next on the list in 7th, I've got the 12th Doctor's Regeneration into the 13th Doctor, the most recent one. And with this one, obviously, I've already mentioned 12 is my favourite Doctor, and I'll stand by that. 12 is just my favourite. And I guess with this regeneration, I think it dragged on a little bit. I mean, realistically, the entire episode is him regenerating. He starts regenerating before the episode begins and holds back the entire episode. And obviously the regeneration starts when he says, well, I guess one more lifetime won't kill anyone, well, except me. I think that's a fantastic line, brilliant. And then he goes, you wait a moment, Doctor, I've got stuff to say to you. And then when he says never be cruel, never be cowardly, nice. Then he does the never eat pears. The children line, I like it in the context of what Peter Capaldi did it as it's something he said to a kid in like hospital or something, I think. And it was like a kid's idea or something. It was like a kid's idea of the Doctor's name, and Peter Capaldi decided to put it in the show. Yeah, it's cool, but I don't really like it. Just kind of drags and drags and drags. The entire speech drags a little bit, and it very much feels like Moffat trying to recreate the 11th Doctor's regeneration scene, which we'll get to at some point, but it feels like he's recreating that into the context of the Capaldi era, in the way he's just walking around that same set in different lighting, and it's just monologuing. But, you know, the ending, those last few lines, laugh hard, run fast, be kind, Doctor, I'll let you go, are beautiful. And the idea that in an episode where he's refusing to regenerate, wants to die, he's lived too long, he goes out with that little smile and lets Whittaker have her go, and then gladly regenerates. Perfect. And who does he change into? Just one of the most optimistic Doctors we ever have in the 13th Doctor. You gotta admit, that's one of her aspects. She's a very optimistic character. Actually, no, she isn't, because in the Ghost moment she's depressed. She's like down as hell, and it's really out of character for the Doctor. But that's the 13th Doctor for you. You know, just the writing really screws her up, doesn't it? In 6th place, I have got the 5th Doctor's regeneration into the 6th Doctor. In what's the story? It's in the Caves of Angelani. Just realised I didn't mention the story for the last one, which was obviously Twice Upon a Time in 2017. Caves of Angelani is in 1984, I believe. And it's a fantastic story. It's one of the best Doctor stories ever made. And the regeneration itself, I quite like. The way he gets into the TARDIS, just dying but dragging and through the mud and getting Perry into the TARDIS, feeding her the milk and making sure she's survived, and then him just going, there's not enough for you. And even he doesn't know if he's going to regenerate because he doesn't know how this poison works, doesn't know if it will just kill him. He doesn't know. And then the reason that this doesn't get higher is because it kind of does the things which the previous regeneration does with 4 to 5, in that it shows little bits of his companions throughout his entire era. However, if the 4th Doctor's one, it's actual flashbacks of them throughout the era. They bring those characters back to film stuff. They circle around him saying stuff to encourage him to regenerate. You know, Tegan says brave heart, the thing which he said to Tegan all the time, and then, you know, you've got all those characters, and then the Master pops up and it's just a bit at random. And then the 6th Doctor, and it, you know, change my dear, well, it seems not a moment too soon. I actually really like that line. I think the scene pre-regeneration is very good because it just really draws you in, and it's just very powerful. And the regeneration itself is really interesting, really unique, and I like it when Doctor Who does new stuff and you can hear the noise pumping up and it feels like, I don't know, just you feel like he's going to blow up, and then boom, Colin Baker. Just, yeah. And I think it's very good, really, regeneration. But there are a few I prefer. That's just how it is. In 5th place, this is going to shock a lot of people because I love this Doctor. This Doctor's one of my favourites. I think I put him number 2, maybe number 3. But it's the 10th Doctor. His regeneration into the 11th Doctor in the End of Time. This is a piece of television which has made me cry a billion times, and it will continue to. But when I review the actual scene itself and compare it to other scenes, there's no dialogue. It's just the overswelling music, and then, you know, I don't want to go. And within the context of the episode, with like the 10 minutes of him meeting all characters, it works. It works within the context of its own piece of television. But when you exclude it from the episode, and you just show it to someone, it's just man walks into the box that blows up. And here's the thing, if you use it in the context of the actual episode, I've never really liked the post-regeneration scene. And that's purely because of how emotional the entire episode is leading up to the regeneration. It's making you so sad about Tennant leaving that the second Matt Smith shows up and it's a little bit comical, you don't enjoy it and you kind of hate it because it's made you cry, and it's just it's a bit of emotional tonal whiplash for me, and it doesn't really work. And that's not Smith's fault, that's not Moffat's fault, it's the episode's fault. But I still like The End of Time Part 2, but yeah. And I think with the next one, this can technically be said, but I think it works a little bit better. But still, yeah, I still like this regeneration, it's fantastic. But yeah, in fourth, actually no, I've just realised that I was talking about the third regeneration, not the fourth, but in fourth place I've got the Ninth Doctor into the 10th Doctor, and I think this is a fantastic regeneration scene. I think this one works fantastically. It is the first regeneration of New Who, so it has to kind of explain a little bit, and it does that job naturally with him explaining to Rose. It uses Rose as the companions are used to explain stuff to the viewer. It does that perfectly and naturally through the Ninth Doctor's dialogue. And the emotion from the Ninth Doctor, where he just kind of laughs a little bit when he says, "Rose Tyler, I was going to take you to so many places." It's just brilliant, and and the way he just starts laughing is brilliant. He's just fully accepting of his fate. He knows he's going to regenerate, and he's just like, "Yep, I'm going to regenerate. That's how it is. I'm going to explain to her, and then I'm going to blow up." And it's just perfect for the Ninth Doctor. He goes out with a smile and just says, and you know what? So was I. I was fantastic. That's just brilliant. Well, it's fantastic even. And it's just a valiant exit for the Ninth Doctor, and it's one of the best finales we're ever going to get in the Parting of the Ways. Fantastic story, fantastic regeneration, fantastic Doctor. What more can be said? With third place, I mentioned this one a little bit briefly, and yeah, the 11th Doctor's regeneration into the 12th Doctor, which features in the Time of the Doctor in 2013. And with this one, I really love it. And the thing is, I've personally admitted that I don't really like the 11th Doctor's era. In fact, I don't really like Time of the Doctor. The regeneration scene is the best part of it, easily, hands down. And the regeneration scene itself is fantastic because it's not just the 11th Doctor talking. It's also Matt Smith saying goodbye to the role. And I'm sorry, but the line just is stuck in my head and sticks to me like glue. You know, the line, "We're all people throughout our lives. But that's fine, you've got to keep moving so long as you remember the people that you used to be." Because that is kind of true, and it resonates with me a little bit. The way you grow as a person and you relate and you connect that to the Doctor, literally, in that he changes into different people. And it's such a great way of discussing regeneration compared to the previous regeneration where it's treated like death. This one is treated as just growing as a person and becoming a different person. And then, of course, him saying he won't forget one day of that life, and that's just brilliant. And then just the representation of him saying goodbye to the character by dropping the bow tie is just chef's kiss. And my only issue with this regeneration is the change itself, because he just kind of boom, Capaldi. You know, it's just that quick. It is just Capaldi. It's just instant, and you want a little bit of a change, because obviously it's something which you look forward to, the actual effect of one character changing into another, one actor changing into another actor, and we don't get it. Hopefully we get it this weekend. I don't know if we will, but if I have to hedge my bets, I'm going to say that Tennant is who Whittaker will turn into. But yeah, we're not going to know that for certain. In second place, there's only two left, and they're both classic Who ones. In second place, I'm going for the second Doctor's regeneration into the third Doctor in the War Games. Obviously, it's weird that I've put the number 3 here, because he may not turn into the third Doctor. Really, he might not. We don't know that. He might turn into the Roof Doctor. Who knows? It makes more sense. But yeah, I think this regeneration is just fantastic. It's so unique. You don't see him turn into another character. It's not him. His death isn't something which happens in the episode. Is it even a character death? He's forced to regenerate. You know, it's arguable. It can be argued that shouldn't take anything out of his regeneration cycle. He's forced to change as punishment, and the effect itself, considering how limited special effects is for the 60s, is just amazing. The acting from Patrick Troughton really makes it, just the noises and him, the echo, him going, you know, all those groans and him spinning around and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I just imagine watching that in 60s, you'd feel so bad because you feel like this lovable character is getting tortured. And unlike most Regenerations where there's an uplift where they turn into the new character, you don't get that. You just see that and then cut. And then you got to wait a few months or maybe even a year, I think. I don't know how long you have to wait until Spear from Space. But then you just get him falling out the TARDIS in Patrick Troughton's clothes. But yeah, I think this one's really spooky. It's the spookiest Regeneration because there's no uplifting bit where he turns into the other character. You don't get that. And that really makes it so unique and so amazing, in my opinion. But none of that. We're now going to talk about my favourite, the best Regeneration scene, in my opinion, which is in Logopolis. It's the Fourth Doctor to the Fifth Doctor in 1981. And I think this Regeneration is fabulous. It's amazing. I think the music helps. I love Peter Howe. I think Peter Howe is fantastic when it comes to Doctor Who. All the background music and everything, it's just so beautiful. And the death itself is so tragic. The way the camera pans down on him and the music kind of is descending a little bit, if you know what I mean. And then, you know, all the characters saying Doctor around him. And then you get, obviously, flashbacks to all the characters, like, throughout his era, saying Doctor, you know, K9, Leela, Romana 2, Sarah Jane, Brigadier, Harry, just all these characters saying Doctor to him, and then him saying, you know, I'm sorry, but the final lines of the Fourth Doctor, I probably think just, is it my favourite final line of a Doctor? It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. Maybe. I think it's fantastic. The whole Watcher thing I can't explain, but it's one of those things in Doctor Who where it's nice to keep things ambiguous, and then he changed into Peter Davison. And my only issue with it is he changes into Peter Davison and doesn't look like the Fifth Doctor, because obviously he just doesn't look like the Fifth Doctor. His hair's a bit too dark. His hair looks much lighter in his 3 seasons. But that's my only issue with it. I think it's fantastic. And here's the thing, it's hard to emotionally connect with classic Who Regenerations because I've watched all the new Who ones, watching it in order, and I've connected, and I kind of binged classic Who realistically throughout 2021 and 2020 to see if it would resonate with me and stuff. And with all the other Regenerations in classic Who, it didn't really hit me. This one hit me. I think it's because the Fourth Doctor his era is so long, it took me so long to watch him, that I did resonate with him a little bit, and that scene made me cry. I'll admit it made me cry. And I think it's fantastic, and I think the music plays a massive part in it. But yeah, that's my favourite Regeneration, and that is the video. So, comment below your full ranking, if you can, maybe just put your top 3 or whatever. But yeah, comment below also what you thought of my ranking. Did you agree with it? Did you disagree with it? Why? So yeah, just tell me what you think. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. I'm really going to try and get back on the upload schedule. Please, please, please. I'm sorry. Keep in mind it's also my 3rd year of university, so I might be a little bit more busy than usual. But yeah, I'm going to try and upload more, especially with Power of the Doctor coming up. And yeah, that is the video. I've been the Doctor Whovian, and I'll see you around.